Hey Aquarius, how you guys doing? Happy to finally talk to you, right? Apologize I didn't get your full moon reading up and running in time, but that's why I'm making you guys a priority this time. I'm really excited to talk about what Aquarius has coming up for them for this Libra new moon. Like, I think this is going to be, well, let's start with the Libra new moon, right? The Libra new moon is all about balancing and harmony and relationships. And the way that it's going to balance out Aquarius, I think is going to be, well, at least from my, dreamy head in the clouds, Gemini perspective, I feel like it's going to be really good for you guys, right? And really powerful because your ruling planet, Uranus, is opposing the moon. So that energy of that, pushing forward in that, radical way of thinking and, changing things up the way Aquariuses do is going to be infused with the balance here, right? And so what I'm seeing for you guys is kind of twofold, right? On the one hand, you guys can be very stubborn, right? You're a fixed sign. You kind of always feel like you know best. And you do, right? You're super smart. You're super logical, super rational. People should always go to Aquarius for advice. The first card that comes up, central situation, the Five of Cups. Usually a card of dwelling on the past, dwelling on what hasn't worked out. And this actually makes sense with what I'm going to talk about here. Because what Aquarius needs to invite in to sort of get balanced out is imagination, right? You guys are very pragmatic. You're very practical, very logical. But in a way, you're also kind of creative, right? All the Aquariuses I know in my life are in some way artistic. But you're not dreamy, head in the clouds kind of people all the time. You have your dreams, but you're not going to get swept away by fantasy per se. But right now, Aquarius, I think you need to get swept away by fantasy a little bit. And why is that? I think you're not feeling so hot. Right? Has things maybe not been going the way you imagined they would? And now you're kind of going a little too far in that rational, let's make a plan and be real responsible and reasonable and kind of boring. This to me is Aquarius kind of losing some of your spirit. Right? You're an air sign, but you're also the water bearer. You have this sort of richness to you. Right? You might not be airy fairy head in the clouds, but you're thinkers, you're doers, your Uranus is all about big ideas and pushing boundaries, and that's what you guys do. To me, Aquarius is that sign of an inventor who creates technology that other people never dreamt of and makes it real and changes the world. That's the energy of Aquarius. But here with the Five of Cups, it's that inventiveness is kind of not there because there's almost this lack of spirit. And that's what I wanted to get at, with the imagination and indulging in a little fantasy, Aquarius. You need to get those juices flowing, right? If in my perfect world, you guys would go super hardcore left field fantasy, right? Just to indulge in it, just to get it spinning again, right? And you don't have to get stuck there. You don't have to be you don't have to get so caught up in your head that you're going to be just this one of these people who is out of touch with reality who you hate. Because Aquarius likes to fucking hate on people sometimes, right? Sometimes. Anyway, I'm kidding. I kid. I love Aquarius. I'm a Gemini. Aquarius and Geminis have a very good time with each other. I think we both have that, like, kind of a little cattier, that ability to be like very rational and like cold in that way. But Gemini also has this sort of like built-in safety net with the other twin, who is like soft and sweet and endearing and, you know, imaginative. But you guys can sometimes be a little too cold. And here are the Two of Wands, like, this again feels like really dry. Like almost like your ideas are sucking, if that makes sense. Like, this is sort of like a creative person who has no creative juices right now in this moment. Like, he's thinking, he's real rational about it, he's reflecting, and you know, this card a lot of times means to me like intuition, like in the gut, kind of like knowing or making choices that way, or being like at a crossroads but being guided forward by like an inner knowing. But right now for you guys, this is feeling to me like too much thought, right? Like, this is the interpretation of the Two of Wands, where you kind of just, you're thinking and not doing. Right? It's like trying real hard to brainstorm, but like the ideas that are coming, like, you're just not liking. But this is the time to like tap into that, right? Because with the energy of Uranus and Libra, like, it's gonna be balanced. Like, you don't have to get worried about being carried away on like flights of fancy, because it's gonna be balanced, right? But in doing so, that you're gonna balance yourself out. Like, I feel like this comes from like a sort of inner dissatisfaction. Like, you guys are not feeling so good about like maybe on the surface things are going well, but it's not feeding you from the inside. And it doesn't matter how much of an analytical, like, cerebral sign I just talked about you being, like, you still need this, right? Like, a lot of times Aquarius gets this from their partner. You know, like, I just met an Aquarius. And so I was doing a little research about Aquarius and Gemini, and one of the bad things about us is that even though we can get along so well, we're both very like cerebral, intellectual types. So we kind of need, in the person we're dating, to be a little softer, a little more warm. And I think that's what you guys need right now. You kind of need that warmth. I think you've been turning away from it. Like the Five of Cups, like, he's looking back and not noticing the other cups that are there. It's like his plans have gone to shit, so he doesn't even realize that he still has some things to work with, right? That there are still people there who are like rooting you on. So you're like doing this thing where you're thinking, but nothing's happening. You're thinking more. Like, have you ever heard anyone talk about like the idea that sometimes overthinking about something, like, it kind of tricks your mind into thinking that you're doing something? So just by thinking a lot, you kind of give yourself the illusion that you're actually doing something. But the Two of Wands is like so stationary, right? Thinking, looking out at the distance, but like not moving. Look, the wands are crossed in front of him. Like, he's not going anywhere. So when you kind of, you know, this reminds me of this meditation that I've done, where you see yourself at the entrance of a castle, right? And there's a high wall and you don't know how to get in. And the meditation is just nonstop for like maybe 5 minutes. You just continually think of another way and another way and another way and another way to get in. And you just keep thinking that way over and over and over again until the time is up. And you get wilder and more creative. And the point of that, I believe, is to kind of like get those juices stirring. to show yourself that like you can take leaps of bounds with your imagination. Remember what I said about like people who inventors who create technology? Like that's creative. Like yes, it's fantasy when it's sci-fi, but what happens when you're holding that piece of that device in your hand, right? That gadget that was only sci-fi. It takes imagination, and it takes this kind of look, this is making me happy. Like if you guys can embody the Fool, if you can just like let yourself go with reckless abandon and just let your mind go, to be creative, to just be a little more flexible, be a little more malleable, imagine possibilities or options that maybe you didn't imagine before. Like I used to think creativity was just about being like artistic and like daydreamer, because that's how I always was. Creative people come up with solutions, right? It's not just about like making something like a work of fiction or a song. It's about that faculty of your mind that can imagine what you can't see in front of you, right? Like that's what imagination is. That's what vision is. Seeing something that like doesn't exist yet. And with the Fool's energy, I think like this is the best possibility for you guys for this new moon. You know, like that Uranus energy of just thinking outside the box, being creative. But how do you do that, right? Here's how you do it. That meditation I was just telling you about, I go to this meditation guide. And one of my favorite things that she says, and I love this, and this is so perfect when my eyes just lit up when I thought about it. She says, experiment with the idea. And then whatever you're talking about. But that's the part that matters here. Experiment with the idea. When you put it that way, there's no pressure, right? Like, experimenting with the idea means that, like, if it's not vibing with you, you can just let it go. Like, if you're going into thinking about something as, like, experimenting with the idea, experimenting with the possibility, like, there's nothing at stake, right? You can let your mind and imagination go as hard as you want without having to feel like you're being silly. You know, it is being silly, but like there's nothing at stake. Because look what comes next, guys. Like, this is that inventor, this is that scientist, this is that person who is taking their flights of fancy. Like, this is the balance I'm talking about with you guys. Like, that flight of fancy made manifest in a real way in the world that matters. And that doesn't mean it can't just be art. It could be creative. It could be like a work of art. But it's made into a reality is the point. The King of Pentacles is like the master manifester. At least in a material way, right? Like, he makes things grow. He is the life force that makes things real in the mundane world. I keep wanting to say that because I want to distinguish him from like the magician who manifests from above. Like, this guy, look, he literally has like a flower growing out of the palm of his hand. See that? So Aquarius, like, get mentally flexible. If the Fool is saying anything, it's like, let go of the way you think things are supposed to be. Take that leap of faith. Like, just open your mind to what's possible. Like, because this is what you're doing now. This is what all that buildup and all those expectations are getting you. That, like that, that sucks. It's not you. It's not you at your best. Not at all. Like, see the bigger picture. That's another good thing Jupiter's good at. See the big picture, like, let go of yourself right now. This is sort of similar to what came up with Capricorn. Like, you just need to kind of let go and let things become manifest. Like, here you go. The Emperor. Like, do you see what you get when you let go? This came up actually in the last reading I did, where for Scorpio, where they had a court card that preceded a major arcana. They had the Queen of Wands and then the Hierophant, right? And this was sort of like the energy that they embodied, and then this is like the movement forward. This is like not necessarily the outcome, but like what life gets elevated to when you live like this, when you embody this energy, right? When you keep these two things in balance with each other. I like that better. They're facing each other. Cute. No, really, like, this energy going together so well, like, it's almost contradictory to have, like, the master of earth with, like, the absent-minded airheaded fool, but, like, don't forget the fool isn't stupid. He's just led by intuition and, like, a spirit of adventure and, like, endless possibilities. What do you get when you combine these two things, right? The ability to have endless possibilities with the ability to manifest. Like, do you see what I'm saying here? Limitless imagination with limitless ability to create. That's what you get. Like, I don't always love the Emperor. I think he can be a little harsh and a little dry, but like, this is excellent, Aquarius. This Emperor energy for you right now is just... it almost feels to me like solid ground that you maybe haven't had for a little while. Or maybe things have been unstable and shaky and like you've just been so long like here, stuck, sad, unfulfilled. Like, this is the most heart I've ever felt in the Emperor. Like, the joy of creation. Like, this is true leadership, right? Like, vision and faith. Faith in yourself, faith in like your mind and what you're capable of. Like, mixed with a businessman, like, you got the ruler of the world. You know? Does that make sense? Like, do you see what I'm trying to say here? About what is possible for you? But what it's going to take from you to get there? Bottom of the deck is the Prince of Wands. Like, always to me a very braggadocio kind of like arrogant young man, and what it's making me feel like right now is like that energy of just like, you know how they like sometimes like a young teen guy just believes he's invincible and unstoppable, and like, you know what this is to me, Aquarius? This is you when you're younger. Huh. I really think that, like, for a lot of you, like, when you were younger, this was easier. Because everything was in front of you, right? Like, you didn't have to go through these, like, painstaking choices and these, like, adult feelings and adult, like, responsibilities and like obligations. Like, do you remember what it was like to be the Prince of Wands? To just think that you were unstoppable? Like, no fucking way I'm not gonna accomplish my dreams. Like, get the fuck out of here. Who are you? What are you trying to tell me? You're full of shit. I don't believe you. I'm the goddamn Prince of Wands. I can do anything. Right underneath that card at the bottom of the deck is the Eight of Pentacles. Like dream work. Like everything you've always fantasized about. Like growing up and doing what you wanted to do and like what you love to do. Like there's that energy right there. But is he still there? Like, do you know if this part of you is still alive? If not, just remember what it was like, right? Like, what it felt like. Why did you think your possibilities were endless? Were you just like stupid and naive? I don't think so. Because that's not Aquarius. Maybe it's because you recognized that you had talent. Maybe it's because you recognized that you had something other people didn't. Right? You didn't pull it out of your ass. Like, that's not an Aquarius thing to do. You're just not, like, full of yourself for fuck's sake. Right? Like, I think if you feel like you're good at something, it's because you know that you're good at it. You know what I mean? Like, remind yourself about where those dreams came from. From real life, like, validated, like, places. Whether that was school or your parents or wherever, or just you seeing it for yourself. Like, how fucking special you were. And then start making things happen. Like, this is what I was saying about the floodgates. Like, you open the floodgates of imagination and now you have all these new ideas and ways of doing things. And, like, all of a sudden, all these opportunities and, like, ways of being different, like, present themselves in, like, a positive way. Being different than you are in this, like, unhappy way that's, like, not satisfying. That's all. At the end of the day, Aquarius, that's what it's all comes down to, is you're not satisfied, so why would you still keep doing things the same way? Maybe you're satisfied. You're not fulfilled. That's the better word. Not fulfilled. And not everybody gets, like, the opportunity to try to be fulfilled, but you guys can do that, right? You have the mind. What was I saying all this time about not wanting to draw too close to the magician? But look what we got. We got the magician. You guys are smart. You're sharp. You're thoughtful. Like, you're talented. And you know it. You've seen it. Like, it's been in front of your very eyes. Like, you manifested, like, fish out of fish for, like, just with your fucking mind and your tenacity and your, like, belief that you could. That's what's missing in the and maybe in you guys right now, that the magician has, is just the belief that he can. This is the path you guys end up on. Like, look, like, very literally, the next step after the Fool in the major arcana is the magician. The Fool sets out on his path of whimsy, and then along the way he starts to learn how to manifest. He starts to learn how to use his willpower, to use that, like, wild, unfettered intuition to, like, actually make shit happen. But you don't get here until you get there, until you let go, until you start imagining different realities, until you stop realizing that the status quo, or what you see in front of your face, is all there is to it. like all you see in front of your face is the whole reality. Like, it's not true. This is not all your reality. It's not true. That's very un-Uranus-like to think, too. You guys are supposed to be pushing our society forward and, like, doing big things. That's the Aquarius thing. Now it's the whole, like, age of Aquarius. It's like leaps and bounds in progress. And science and, like, belief and thought. Right? That's where you guys get your spirit, right? It's not about being, like, whimsical as much. It's about, like, those, like, big electric ideas. The passion behind those ideas, guys. Like, I shuffled it away, but the Prince of Wands is, like, pure unadulterated drive and passion. That fucking electric punch to your gut that Uranus packs. And on the other path, we have the Ace of Swords. To me right now, I'm feeling like sort of just a sharpening of thought, right? Like a new way of doing things. A new way of being. Like keen, sharp, witty mind. And I was gonna say, I almost quite can't understand how these can be two different paths because, like, they seem very similar. Like, the Ace of Swords is kind of like taking a hold of all that mental energy and, like, acting, right? But the Ace of Swords is just pure, unadulterated mental energy, which is the opposite of what we're talking about, right? Like, not at all a negative card. I hardly ever think of it. And I wouldn't even say negative now, but, like, what are we talking about? The heart, like that, like other thing that brings you joy and fulfillment that you can't put into words or logic. Like, this is so logical to me right now. And not at all bad, right? Like, huh, there we go. I was just, like, getting stuck on this, but look, what is part of the magician? The magician's card, right? He has the cup, he has the wands, he has the pentacles, and he has the swords. Within all of the elements of all of the suits are present in the magician card. And why is that? Because he's representative of creation, of the four elements combined to make something new. He has all of the resources to manifest, right? When I said about, like, that thing that's missing, like that heart, that, like, magic. And then what do you have here? Just, like, yeah, powerful energy, right? Strong, sharp, great. Like, there's nothing bad you can say about this except other than it's just one piece of the puzzle. Do you see where I'm going with this? Like, this is great and strong and powerful, but it's only one part of this. Of the greater, like, creative power that's possible. You know? First time I ever saw the Ace of Swords as something that wasn't really, like, the best thing for a person. Like, usually it's brilliant and great, and it is brilliant and great. But, like, look at what else is at your disposal. Do you guys see, like, visually what I'm talking about here? I think that's really important. So which path do you choose, Aquarius? You're not going to lose. Like, you're gonna be good no matter what. You'll be fine. Like, really fine. Like, again, to liken it to the Aquariuses I know, like, they're doing well in their lives, right? Are they doing what they want to? No, I mean, not everybody gets to, and that's fair. But they're doing well. They're making money. They're, like, doing well in their careers. Like, they're fine. But, like, maybe not all the way fine. Bottom of the deck so far, we have the King of Swords. This is sort of that, like, Prince of Wands ambition to me, like, just turned so emotionless. Like, literally, the King of Swords, he's the master of his suit, of the suit of swords, of the element of air, of thought. He's just ruthlessly of his mind. But what is the caveat of this card? Being too much that way. The King of Swords can almost be so logical and so rational that he loses, like, the humanity that got him to where he is. And I don't want to say humanity isn't, like, evil, but, like, the heart, the emotion, the soul. And I feel like this is the way you guys have been a little bit, like, lacking a little bit in whatever that thing is that we call soul. Your spirit is, like, not missing, but it's, like, buried somewhere. Like, where'd it go? Why? What is it that's on your mind that's, like, keeping you so unable to, like, keep going? Why are you so frozen? Aquarius, why are you so frozen? Justice. You're not balanced. You know what I mean? That's why that Prince of Wands, like, sure, he's, like, ambitious and stuff, but he's the element of fire. And fire has, like, spirit. Fire kind of, like, is spirit and soul. And not just balance, like, justice is always a card of fate and, like, karma and, like, where you're meant to be and who you're meant to be. So what happens when you bring that spirit back? You end up on that path of who you're meant to be. Balance, like, the scales, the yin yang, like, it's all about balance. And look what she has in her hand. The sword. That sharp mind is, like, your best asset still. But you're only holding it in one hand. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Does that make sense, Aquarius? Like, do you see, like, the gist of what is going on here? Just one more, and then we're going to clarify with the Nature Nurture Oracle. Temperance. Oh, like... Like, what better cards are there in the major arcana for balance besides justice and temperance? I can't think of it. Because these are the cards. But temperance. Like, such a beautiful card to come out now. In a lot of decks or older decks, this card was called art. It's a card that's represented by Sagittarius, like a very creative, expressive sign. This is so, like, active to me. It's kinetic. It's, like, also funny because, like, we're talking about Aquarius the water bearer, like, makes me think of the star card a little bit, or in a traditional deck, right? Where You're half on land, half in water, and water is flowing. So in addition to balance, like, of bringing that heart back, like, this is just Aquarius, like I see it, like, it's almost like it's coming out of his head. That flow, the imagination and the creativity is flowing. And he's gonna flow it back, and then he's gonna flow it back again, like, imagination on overdrive. Bottom of the deck, Judgment. So you have a lot of major arcana cards here, guys. Like, I think, like, this is going to be a momentous shift on this moon for you. I think not only is it going to be, like, an exercise in thinking outside of the box, I think that what you come up with is going to change your life. And we're only talking about the scope of 2 weeks, so it might not be the most dramatic change, but it's going to be significant. It's going to be a departure from what you're used to, at the very least, is what I'm feeling. You know, it's going to be like getting away from this. Getting away from this. Like, these are the only two cards, the Ace of Swords, the Minor Arcana that came out in the spread as factors in this situation. Everything else is a Major Arcana card. Like, you guys are making moves. Like, this is that, like, exciting fucking Uranus energy. Like, it's just making big things happen. It's pushing it. We have gratitude. You have the Elephant. I mean, you guys have a very strong moral compass, so I don't really think you need to be lectured and, like, being humble and accepting where you came from, but, like, this is almost to me like looking back at that Prince of Wands, like, recognizing and remembering where you came from. Like, acknowledging the struggle you've been through, acknowledging the struggle that, like, your family's been through to get you to where you are right now. Do you want to, like, talk about heart? Do you want to talk about bringing balance to your heart? Like, who do you have to be grateful to? Like, and I want you to think about yourself too. Like, I want you to look back on your life and, like, be giving yourself a little pat on the back right now, Aquarius. Like, lift yourself up. Evolution. Butterfly, like, Judgment, like, change. I'm pretty sure this came up for excuse me, Capricorn? I don't know. I don't remember. The same cards. Point being, I thought of Capricorn because of, like, the similarity with, like, how getting in touch with the less pragmatic side of yourself, like, brings about big change. This was Capricorn. Like, this is moving you forward. Alright, sorry about that, Aquarius. I swear I checked my phone like 10 times to make sure I had enough storage before I started, and apparently ran out of storage. Alright, so we were talking about gratitude, those emotions, those good feelings, and about, like, where you've come and how far you've come. Right? And that's going to be, like, that little extra push that, like, leads you to that victory, Aquarius. Like, you are going to win. Like, right now, this is just, like, get your award speech ready. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're on that path. You're just, like, getting in touch with, like, all those things that made you great, and it's going to push you forward. You know, like it might not be that, your childhood dreams like manifest through this, but that's not what it's about. It's about that part of you that can dream. Like, look at where we're at, like with the harvest and corn with the King of Pentacles. It's like reaping what you've sown. Like, I can't get enough of that out of this, like you guys. All right, Aquarius, it happened again. So I'm like done. I think you guys get the point. All right, I'm getting a little frustrated, but I think you understand what I'm saying to you, right? The bottom of the deck we have the Orca, which represents records. This is, to me, the way that Aquarius kind of represents like not like the best of the human race, like the big ideas, the history, like what goes down in history, like what how we communicate with each other. Like this is, to me, is like you guys pushing the boundaries forward, which is what you should be doing. It's what we need you to be doing. That's what this is for, right? That's your gift, and that's what you need to bring to us and the world and make us all a little better. Right? So Aquarius, like, do your thing, don't be scared. But it's not even about keeping it fun, just keep it like interesting. Mix it up, switch it up. Right? Think outside the box, get creative. Like, let yourself dream, experiment with the idea of anything you want. But experiment with it. No stakes. Right? Except you're like being the greatest of greatest Aquarius that you can be. I bid you farewell. Until next time, I will see you in 2 weeks later.